Hi, good afternoon. It is Thursday, February 15th, 2024, and we are at the Urban Forestry Committee meeting. I will be chairing the meeting. According to the Acts of Chapter 2, pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be held remotely. So let's start off with introductions. We go alphabetical by first name. And I believe, Chris, that's you. No,
Hi.
Amy. Oh, no, she's not here. Chris.
Good check. Well, depending on how we chose, it could be Breck.
Yes, Breck. How about you introduce yourself?
I'll go, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Breck Miller. I'm the tree warden for the city.
And now I'm Chris Dwan. I'm a local activist and tree enthusiast. Dorothy, you're muted.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Supet. I'm a member of the committee and also a tree enthusiast.
I think it's me. Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Grossman. I'm a co-chair of the committee and landscape architect, and today I'm also a tree enthusiast.
I think I go next. Vanessa Bukili, always a tree enthusiast, also the senior urban forestry and landscape planner for the city. And yeah, go trees.
Yeah. My name is Tori Antonino. I am a co-chair of the Urban Forestry Committee. I'm an ecological landscaper. Today, I'm a pawpaw enthusiast. I got a whole bunch of pawpaw root for those who want to start your own grove. Okay. With that,
What about Malik?
Malik.
Oh, I'm not an official member of the committee. However, I'm Malik Drayton, urban forestry and landscape planner. Very enthused about trees as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about this? Do we have any housekeeping? And then we'll go to promoting panelists.
I feel like I had something but I didn't write down, so I don't remember. We can maybe give an update on the members.
Is someone taking minutes?
Breck is on minutes.
Great.
So Tori, Leah, and I interviewed folks for open positions, and our recommendations are now in the mayor's hands, so we're making progress. Also in between last meeting and this meeting, one piece of the process was changed. So the city council voted to streamline, I guess, the approval of members portion of the filling vacancies on committees. So we still have to have the city council confirm appointments, but it doesn't have to be referred from city council to the city council committee and then back to the city council. It should just be a one meeting deal at the main city council meeting, unless they have certain questions about any of the recommendations. But that, yeah, cuts our process down from at least 6 weeks usually to maybe 2 weeks. I guess it depends when we get in on the cycle, but at least cuts a month off the process probably. So right for that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Vanessa. And thank you, Leah, and good job, us. I think we have a good some good recommendations. One thing at the Urban Forestry Committee that we value is public participation. And so because in general, if you're in a Zoom meeting, you can't really participate. You can't, there's a little bit of a removal. So we ask that anyone who's in the audience who would like to be on screen, and we will promote you to what is called a panelist. Of course, you can always raise your hand. So if you would like to be promoted, I believe Vanessa is going to give you that option. And then I would like for those people who wish to introduce themselves, who are not on the committee, please do. And we will take resident concerns. So who do we got today? Who's here? Dorothy, I see your hand, so I just want to recognize you.
Yeah, I just had a question about what we talked about earlier. Can you clarify which positions you're interviewing for? Just,
Oh, we have one youth member vacancy open and 2 general members. So
okay, I thought it was
on this committee, yeah.
okay, I was thinking you meant the tree surgeons. I wasn't sure.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, sorry.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. So, see, people are, some people are being promoted. Does anyone in the public have a concern, comment, update? And feel free to introduce yourselves as well. You can throw up your hand or wave at me. Okay, good to see you. Michael?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah. And thanks for the activism you're doing. I think I got an Action Network email from you. And all right, well, to warm people up, does any other members of the committee have any updates or questions regarding things about town? Yeah, I don't think I do either. I'm just not. Okay, Marion and Allie, I see you're in the audience. Just if you want to chime in, let us know. But I think we'll start the meeting. Does that sound? John, do you want to just say hi, who you are?
Yeah, sorry about that. So I'm John Bronkamp. I'm from the City of Somerville Public Space and Urban Forestry Department. I'm coming today to speak about the 217 Somerville Ave Pocket Park. We have a substantial design that we wanted to kind of vet the trees by y'all. So I don't know if now's the time to speak. I didn't see the agenda, so I just don't know when you'd like me to give that presentation.
Is it possible, Leah, will you make magic and put the agenda in the chat? You may have already done so, but I logged in a little bit after. And,
Yes.
and I just had the agenda in front of me and now I lost it. So we will move on to the first agenda item. And
It
someone
is
read that to me.
217
It's
Somerville
217.
Ave design.
But exactly. Let's take opportunity of John, recognize your time, and perhaps we have screen sharing abilities.
Yes, it looks like I should. Thank you very much for this
All right.
opportunity to
Yes.
come speak to you all. Let me, oh, it's disabled.
All right.
Vanessa, do you need me to
Yeah.
forward that to you?
No, I just have to remember where the right button is. Sorry. There we go. Now you should be able to.
Perfect. Just make sure I'm sharing the right thing.
And the agenda
Okay.
is in the chat for those who need it.
Thank you very much. Bear with me for one moment. I just wanted to be able to see all your faces as well. Can you all see my screen? Perfect. Okay, so the 217 Somerville Ave Pocket Park is a new plot of land that we acquired in 2019. It used to be the American Legion, a Greek Orthodox Church than the American Legion Post. The city acquired it in 2019 with the intention of making it into a new park for this area that's kind of lacking open space and greenery. So we've been working with the design team, Crowley Cottrell, to work through a design for this. The community, we had robust community process of 3 different community meetings, a listening session, and then multiple on-site kind of community gatherings to gather input. From that, we created a design that's kind of a very passive, heavily planted open space area that we are still in design. So I think it's a perfect time to bring this up to the UFC while there's still an opportunity to make some changes to planting and whatnot. So the 217 Somerville Ave site is obviously on Somerville Ave. It's kind of in the eastern portion of Union Square. It's this little red outline right across the street from Vinyl Bakery and the Target. You can see that there's kind of a lack of open space in this area, but through future private development and the art farm, this corridor will act as a very green corridor, and this park will become a good connection and keystone piece to kind of leapfrog from all these beautiful open spaces. So looking at the current condition of the site, so it used to be an American Legion post. That building was demolished and the ground was leveled. There are 2 existing trees currently. You can see a third one that was removed. I do not know when, but so currently there are only these 2 existing trees. Although there is concern that when we close, you can't really see it, but there is a curb cut here, and there needs to be dramatic work to close this curb cut, in which we think that this tree might be heavily damaged. So we're proposing to plant some additional street trees along this edge along Rossmore Ave. So here you can see our planting plan, or like a plan of the planting scheme. Now, one thing that's different with this plan is you see that there's 3 street trees that we're proposing. We're actually proposing 3 new street trees, and then the preserving of the one healthy tree that we believe to not be damaged during our construction. So in total, we're looking at 14 new trees. We have some street trees along the edge, then off of the page, you can't really see it, but there's the new street tree plantings along Somerville Ave that are underneath Silvacell. So these trees are going to get a lot larger, as you all know. And then as we kind of move back into the site, we do larger trees to create shadows into each space behind it, and kind of tapering down these trees so that we're not impeding any of the residences, preserving their views and the natural light that they get into their windows. So the species that we're looking at for these 14 new trees consist of Cornus Florida, 3 Cornus Florida, 3, I'm sorry, I'm so bad at Latin names and I never took Latin. So maybe I should just go with the common names. We're going to do some flowering dogwoods, some thornless common honey locusts, some magnolias, some hop hornbeams, and some pin oaks all along this area. And then I can switch back. I think it might actually be easier if I just bring up the PDF so I can zoom in for y'all. So we're looking at placing those oaks along the front edge. We're looking at placing the thornless honey locust along the edge. Then we're looking at planting the 3 hop hornbeam in the middle, and then the flowering dogwoods along the back edge. So this is kind of the first shot at our planting plan. And then we are completely open to different species. I think for our timeline, it's a pretty condensed timeline. They've been working through construction drawings for the last month and a half, and have about a half a month to a month longer to work on these drawings. So these plans are not finalized, and comments are obviously welcome, but we are kind of looking for a deadline for comments by next Friday, if that's possible. And then I always recommend everyone to check out our Summer Voice page, the 217 Somerville Ave Summer Voice page, for any information on those community meetings or kind of to review any of these plans.
Wow, short and sweet, John.
Sorry,
Thank you
sorry, I'm a fast talker.
Yeah, thank you for your work on this, and just congratulations to the city for, I think this is really exciting, and shout out to JT Scott to help put this all in motion years ago. Yeah, I want to open it up to comments, especially on species selection. I have thoughts, but let's my colleagues tell me. Talk.
And let me know if you need me to flip through plans or whatnot.
Okay, Mr. Dwan.
If I could, is it easy to go to just that overall map of the park?
Yeah, that PDF that I was originally showing. Sorry.
So first, echoing what Tori said, I'm thrilled it was in 2019 that Ward 2 Councillor Scott went door to door with a few of us, not asking people if they would like a park at that corner, and we couldn't find anybody who answered the door who said anything but yeah, that would be wonderful, and the city council wound up taking it by eminent domain, and it's been a long, weird 5 years. There was the pandemic, there's the Union Square, there's the Saucy Project. It's like no shade on anybody for how long these things take, and I'm just thrilled to see it. And my first reaction, I'm remembering our last meeting 4 weeks ago, and we were talking about these spaces to be in nature, perhaps among greenery, rather than having it used as decoration along the edges. And I just see this layout, and it looks like exactly what we were saying we need more of. Just at a first glance, this looks like a place you could go and be amongst some, be in nature rather than next to nature, in a very heavily traveled and rapidly built up part of the city. So I think it looks great just from the perspective of what we're trying to add. I have no opinions about the planting specifically, but the layout looks great to me.
Thank you.
Vanessa.
Thanks. Sorry, it's the first time I've seen the species list too. I love oaks. We have a lot of pin oaks, so I might switch to a different oak.
Sure.
I don't know which one off the top of my head. There's just so many good options. Pin's like my least favorite.
Mine as well.
And the honey locust also is like, we have a lot of those. I think we can do better. Even if you are looking for some sort of similar character, like a Kentucky coffee tree can provide a similar character. I don't know that it needs a similar character, and those are bare a lot of the year, so they're a little bit, I love them, but they're a little bit awkward looking for a lot of the year. I personally don't care. I think they're amazing, but maybe not the right fit here. Maybe even black. I'm pushing Nissa everywhere I go, so like Nissa's a good choice, I think, maybe for that spot. I'm doing a lot of street tree plantings of Nissa. So far, they're doing fine. I don't know what they'll do in 10 years, but keeping my fingers crossed.
Just to quickly interject, so that reminds me, so with some of the tree plantings we did select, one of the concerns with the community was to be able to see through the park and to be able to see these spaces that were kind of tucked away. So we looked at a lot of species that kind of could be limbed up or branching over, so that 4 to 6 foot elevation you could see through, and that there's plantings covering the base of it and above it, and then strategic placings of shrubs that interfere with that area, but trying to create certain view sheds through the park.
Got it. Okay, I'll have to think a little bit more. So maybe this is not the right call for that side street for Rossmore, but maybe.
Are you saying for street trees, Nissas? Yeah. I don't think that's as much of a concern. It's kind of just the interior tree plantings.
And I can't remember what those middle guys are. What's Australia, right?
The
Hawthorne
Hawthorne
beam?
beam, yes.
Those are great. I haven't had super good success yet, but this is a different situation, so I'm hopeful for you. Yeah, those are my main thoughts so far.
Are there any failures or successes that you saw with the Hawthorne beam? Is there something that we could do differently to promote their
We just
success?
like keep getting these small ones that are kind of weird forms for street trees, and I don't
Mhm.
have that many at a time where I can say they're a little bit sensitive, I think, to the street tree situation.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't have it's just sort of my gut sense. I don't have a real answer.
Thank you.
John, will you do me a favor? Will you go back to the species list? Because I want to see the species. I just want to take a screenshot of it.
Yep.
Or, like, and then I want to continue my input from my colleagues.
And I can also send this presentation to you all after the meeting, if that's helpful.
I'm also noticing these are quite large.
That was one concern I flagged. I know kind of the larger the tree you propose, the less successful it can be because it has to spend so much time regrowing all those roots rather than if you just picked a smaller tree, it can grow those roots and
Yeah,
gain the calipers quicker.
I know, like for placemaking, it's nice to have a bigger size to start with, but I'd say like max 3.5.
5 to
That's
5.5
too big.
seems wild. Yeah.
I don't even know how you're gonna get that in the street.
I don't know.
You're not. So.
Leia, what's TikToking in the old noggin?
Yeah. Thanks for coming to present this. It's very exciting that's happening. I echo all the concerns so far with pin oak and honey locust. I was just perusing our list and wondering if hackberry could be an option for the street tree side. Has
Maybe.
good air pollution tolerance, knowing that this is also adjacent to, a future green corridor, but not quite a full green corridor. Could be fun, and it has a similar, craggy Kentucky coffee tree vibe, but a little bigger in my mind. And yeah, I'd echo the other oak options. I know we do a lot of swamp white oak, but
I love them.
yeah, they're great. It's my spirit tree. But yeah, could we try a burr oak or a trying to think. We've dabbled in willow oaks and they haven't done super. Have we done ones more recently that did better?
Yeah, once they got replaced, they've been doing better.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are really nice in their, fine foliage. They're also more southern tendent. So if this is a warmer, warmer microclimate, it might be could be a good option.
That's a great point to touch on. It is southern facing, and with the building, with Somerville Ave being so wide, the buildings being 3 stories kind of to the south of it, it does receive pretty much full sun all day long.
Yeah, and knowing it's right across from the Target parking lot, which is a massive sea of asphalt.
Yes.
I imagine it might be a bit of a warmer microclimate. But yeah, I think the shrubs seem good, exciting. I know we have a lot of grow low sumac, and it's like a great it's great for tough conditions, and this seems like an area where it might be, because of the way that the paths seem to be laid out, and it seems like there's some maybe ramping that's going on. It seems like this is an area that's a little more protected for planting.
Yes, and there's also it's not helpful in this plan, but all these lines are plant rails. So we're really trying to discourage people cutting through and trying to make sure that, here we have handrails. So that's really going to prevent someone cutting through. So it does give us some opportunities to plant something else. But we were kind of, it's a balance with our DPW department and the maintenance capabilities that they can handle.
Yeah, I think that'd be the only one that we might want to, and it's also, yeah, the second most in terms of quantities. I'm trying to think what we could suggest as an alternate. There was an alternate category there. I'm a little concerned about the alternate category too. I assume that comes in when these things aren't available at a nursery.
I believe their purpose here was that this was 50% design. So I think they were using this opportunity to pitch other trees to us if we wanted to switch them.
Yeah.
Ideally, what I would shoot for is picking a preferred plant and then having that approved. And then if they can't find that, then we'll work with the landscape architect to have them submit different species.
Yeah, I think I just opt to have the alternates be native options.
Okay.
I think that's mostly in the Deutzia and Ilex. I think that's a hybrid, the Misnervae.
Are the dogwoods also going to be in full sun? The flowering dogwood?
Not complete full sun once the canopy grows up.
I mean, I would be a little bit concerned about the dogwoods while the other trees are getting established. I think dogwoods in full sun tend to be kind of sad and especially susceptible to anthracnose, but so maybe a red bud or something like that might be a little bit happier there. But
sorry, what was that species you?
A red bud could be
Red bud,
an
okay.
alternative sort of native, smaller statured flowering tree. And I kind of think that the hophorn beam in full sun might have a hard time as well.
Okay.
But I say that mostly just because I think of it as being sort of a forest understory tree. I don't really have any experience with it as a park or street tree.
Dorothy, do you have any impressions?
Not anything to add. I think it looks like a great park. And I look forward to seeing it. And thank you for all the thought you put into this.
Of course, I'm super excited about the space. It's going to be wonderful, and it's a great. None of these community members have really a backyard because of how densely packed all the houses are. So this park is kind of like their communal backyard, and that's kind of how they've been speaking about the space. So I'm very excited to see it constructed.
John, is this your first sort of, I know you've been here for a bit now, but is this your first like lead on a big project?
This is my first lead for the city of Somerville. At my previous job, I was the landscape architect working on playgrounds and green infrastructure within cities.
Just speaking of which, are there play elements in this park?
There's some play, like ambiguous play features like boulders or like elements that kids can climb on, and then there's misting like features, water features to provide cooling, but physical play elements that need the rubberized surfacing. No, there's none of those highly intensive play elements.
Well, that's good to hear. I want to put just a pitch in for like sort of wait, and the and the stones are real? Are the rocks real?
The rocks will be real.
Okay. Just I had my hopes dashed around the library, and there's some non-real rocks, but so I'm just gonna put a pitch in for like some kind of standalone, I don't know, like pull-up bars or parkour, any sort of anything that might be if there's room to have like a standalone like workout space for young people, well, older people, whomever. I just think if we had more of that sort of as part of even, you know, even passive parks, could be a really interesting like element to get people to go to the parks. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go, whatever, do my reps, do sit-ups, whatever people do. And I had this in mind, like, oh, we have them at every park. Like there could be like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, go to 217, then go to Argenziano that has lots of like type of equipment, and head over to South Street. South Street Farm. Yeah, it's been on my mind. So
no, that's a great idea. I think one of the elements that we tried to do was leave that center space very open. There's some fixed furniture along the edges, large communal, we call it the communal dining table. It's just a very long picnic table so that different members can all join each other. But then we leave a lot of that space open so that we can program elements like different yoga classes or whatnot, because this area is kind of a very shaded spot. That was like the ideal location to kind of create an open space that can be permitted for uses if someone wants to reserve the space for a different fitness class.
that was very thoughtful. I have a question around, so concern is around rats. Everyone's concerned around rats. I just, are there, I guess I can't see it in the drawing, but if there were any sort of raised boardwalk elements, I would want to caution against those, right? Because we've had some problems. Okay.
Yeah, no raised boardwalk. And we've been in lengthy conversations with our rodent control team. So we definitely have heard all of the ways that we can kind of mitigate this problem and the best ways to achieve that in a park. So we've been working very closely with them and trying to achieve those goals. Things like different trash cans, the way we texture the concrete, the way the planting beds are planted, the amount of mulch we use, those type of elements all kind of play a factor in housing for rodents, because we found out that our parks are the homes for rats and not really the food source. And dealing with the food source is like the major issue to get rid of the rats.
Okay, so I have thoughts on plants now. Okay. First impressions. Well, where are our herbaceous plants in this drawing? And I just want to recognize that there is a neighbor who owns property here. I don't know if he lives in this property, but he was very demanding. I mean, I don't want to be a pot calling the kettle black, but just like want to get a meeting with you guys, and he, you know, he's very understandably rat phobic. But okay, so how about we just answer, where are our herbaceous plants?
We are working, that was one comment that I had with this plan. We are working to add some herbaceous plants kind of in the style of Conway Park, where we do large swaths of a single type of plant so that DPW can understand what's a plant and what's a weed. I think with our SPAP advancing, we'll be able to get some, the Somerville Pollinator Action Plan. We will be able to get some species from that and be able to incorporate some swaths of these plantings. It's definitely a balance with our DPW, but that was one comment that we wanted to incorporate some more perennial plantings rather than all woody shrubs.
Okay. Just one of the importance of mixing, being able to mix, like, let's say you want to do like a little blue stem milkweed combo, is that butterflies really, monarch butterflies in particular, in my observations in my garden and clients' gardens, is they they eat the milkweed and they love climbing to a nearby grass to hide in and to pupate in. I understand trying to make sure our DPW has more of a easier time working with our sort of herbaceous meadowy type spaces, but it's rather unnatural. And again, if we just paid our DPW more and had them trained, it might not be an issue. I know that now we're getting into sort of some murky territory. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, just maybe some simplistic, you know, little blue stem rudbeckia, aster, milkweed.
Yeah, I think little swaths of those things can be incorporated, and those swaths can kind of mesh with each other so that they're touching. I think it's just kind of like a planting plan that takes over one bed and has 7 different plants that are kind of all scattered throughout. That's just going to be the second year that comes up, nothing's probably going to come up because everything's gotten pulled from it. So we're just trying to really create swaths that are easily recognizable, but also provide like good pollinator interest and good interest for the community. So it definitely is a balance. This was one comment that I immediately jumped on when we received this package, was that you're missing a whole category of plants that we've discussed. So there definitely are things to come.
Yeah. And there's also precedent with all the bioswales in the area that I know got away from us. But then the contractor, thanks to Vanessa, was able to replant those bioswales. And they have, you know, we could continue their sort of penstemon and the Monarda and they have the iris in there too. So that might be something we can draw from, and maybe integrating a few things that aren't in our bioswale. I love a good Rudbeckia triloba. They have been capturing my heart just because they can get big. They can almost look like shrubbery, but they're really, if you want something shorter, go for the black-eyed Susans, the triloba that we've been sharing and giving out at our plant giveaways. And that's something that's like blooms for a long time. And even after it's pollinated, it keeps its rays, you know, so you know, always a good echinacea, a good echinacea black-eyed Susan pair or brown-eyed Susan pairing is always a stunning combo.
Yes, I will definitely relay those species over. And now that we kind of have the pollinator action plan advancing, I think they had a recent presentation that I was able to pull a lot of wonderful species from that I wanted to relay over to the 217 team.
Just just a quick, just write these down, okay, please. Let's just the herbaceous plants. I'm thinking, okay, pussy toes, low ground cover, blooms April. Let's do iris, and penstemon. That'll give dual bloom. Then we're looking at and these are all native, and try to get straight species, please, or advocate for them. Then let's just get azizia in there for our swallowtails. And you can, I'm just trying to cover the seasons. Red columbine, butterfly weed or swamp milkweed, brown or black-eyed Susans, echinacea, yarrow. Then what do we want in July? If you can do Joe Pye weed, that might, spotted Joe Pye, I think, is the smaller one. And just make sure we have goldenrod and aster in there, licorice. Anise goldenrod is kind of compact, and we have some at in front of City Hall. Shorts aster works. Might be hard to source, or New England aster. I'm missing, well, and anything. I'd say lobelia too, and then some just some grasses, you know. purple love grass, and I just mentioned it, the other grass, short,
Little blue stem.
little blue stem. Yeah. It's just, yeah, off the top of my head.
Sorry, just taking some.
Yeah. And I know I'm talking a lot, but let's just, we do with the shrubbery, I'm just trying to I'm thinking one thing. We really need to get pussy willow into our landscapes, or willow in general, but pussy willow I think is a good shrubbery to incorporate. Again, early blooms, and a really large amount of different types of Lepidoptera host on it. And I'm trying to think of a shrubbery for later blooming, because I see summer sweet and I'm thinking, okay, that's the last, I think that's the last bloomer for the shrubs, which is great. I mean, the summer sweet is amazing. And then the fragrant sumac is so overplanted. I'd rather see that either cut down on and or replaced with Comptonia, the sweet fern.
I love sweet fern.
Oh, so amazing. And it's like that, like fragrant sumac smells good when it's blooming, but like the sweet fern is like, oh, you walk by and you have to stop, right? And then I just want to solicit ideas for later blooming shrubbery, if that's
Tori, we've been trying to push Prunus primula, dwarf sand plum. I don't know if we've been able to source it yet, but you know, if we're throwing it on a list, I was just looking up when it blooms.
Yeah, that's
It's
probably,
also very dry compared to, you know, pussy willow is a little more wet. I know it's pretty tolerant, but having an understanding of, the site conditions.
We are going to irrigate the site.
I like the idea of the pumela and the, I wonder if it's in the same, like the sweet fern and the sand cherry, because they're both
that feels
sandy,
more dry, sandy, like harsh urban tolerant species.
Yeah. Trying to think. Oh, I know groundsel. We have a late blooming groundsel, and I know that can get a little wild looking, although I love it. Or high tide bush, another later blooming one. I don't know. I can't. Those are two that are,
I'll give you guys the homework
There we
assignment of
go.
till next Friday.
Okay.
I'll be accepting comments on species.
And thanks for adding the low bush blueberry, in addition to being what I think is going to be our replacement for lily of the valley. They are a very high production species for Lepidoptera, butterflies and moths.
Bearberry could be another grow low swap as well, and fits the sort of harsh condition. And low, knowing that we want to keep the views open.
I did read in Doug Tallamy's book, The Nature of Oaks, that willow oaks tend to heave sidewalks. And I don't even want to speak it, because I'm like, because it's been used and with, varying levels of success, and it seems more of them have been surviving. I don't know, what about a black oak? And it might not be a problem either with the silvacells.
So the Somerville Ave ones will have silvacells?
So the trees that are along Somerville Ave currently, those ones have silvacells. All the trees on our site and on Rossmore won't have silvacells. We don't have the space to install those. But I was just saying that the ones on Somerville Ave that are currently planted are gonna exponentially grow and cast additional shade on our site.
also want to be cognizant of time. I know we have some big
Yeah.
items to get to as well
Yes.
today.
John, great job. Great job, Vanessa, Malik.
Thank you very much.
All
I really
Johns.
appreciate you all taking the time to review this. And let me just drop my email in the chat, and maybe Vanessa can assist me with sharing this presentation and my email so that you guys can all send me comments over the next week. Thank you, Vanessa. And I really appreciate you all for taking the time to review this.
It's exciting to see.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
We can all go hang out there once it's built.
That
Yep.
sounds wonderful. The spring of 2025, it should open.
Sweet.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, I'm wondering if we should go to the tree preservation ordinance, because I know Chris has to leave at 6. And
I can actually stick around. I learned the next meeting isn't until 6:30.
yeah. Okay. Okay. I lost the agenda again, guys.
Next is updates from the city.
Updates from the city. What's up?
City
Guess
tree
that's
removals?
me. Not too much to report on that front. We've done a handful of condition-based removals in the last few weeks, mostly Norway maples that are kind of falling apart. We've got a couple big ones along the Tufts campus on Powderhouse Boulevard coming up this weekend. So I'll send the list of those and just the ones that we've been doing hopefully tomorrow. Just for everybody's awareness, we do have Eversource working in town. I know there typically are some resident concerns when Eversource comes to town, so I just wanted everybody to have that on their radar. Their contractor is Asplund. They apparently have new crews and new foremen in this year, and tell me that they're going to do better than ever, which is a low bar, but I guess if anybody does hear any concerns about the work that they're doing, you know, I'm trying to stay on top of it, but they're all over the place. So feel free to shoot me an email. And the last update for me is we did make a job offer to another tree crew member who should be starting on the 20th. So that's big development
Wahoo.
for DPW. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Breck. I mean, when you say Eversource, you mean they're like cutting the trees like in the middle, kind of away from the wires? Is that their?
Yeah, it's all line clearance pruning. So, you know, theoretically, in most of the cases where they're working, it's trees that have already been sort of trained away from the wires. So hopefully it's mostly small diameter whips that they're pruning away.
Yeah.
You know, in some cases it does end up being larger stuff, and they've typically been pretty good about letting me know before they do anything major, but you know, we have had some issues with them in the past. So I always appreciate anybody keeping an eye out. I think they're mostly up in Winter Hill at the moment, but they'll sort of be all over the place.
Okay, thank you for the heads up on your work. Next we have private tree removals.
I'm here. 1 second.
Is that okay?
I'm going to move my little screens over. All right. Everything needs sound effect. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys are all looking at the TPO sheet, or I should share my screen, but let's share screen. I think I'm able to. Screen 2. There. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, and I create this nice little friendly tab for the year 2024. We have one permit that we've received. And I believe I issued that permit today, after a lot of back and forth. It is an owner occupant. Their issue was with box elder bugs. And they're waiver eligible, so they are able to remove their box elder tree. Pretty clean cut, straightforward. Back and forth was just based on plans and formats and what have you. So ongoing exemptions I've updated, and we've had about, let's see, we started the year off strong on these. We have about 7 exemptions for the year. Most of them are a tree of heaven. Then we have a sycamore maple that's oversized, but it was in hazardous condition. And in each case, I've been getting pretty clear-cut evidence on this. So that's more clear-cut. For the 2023 permit applications, I need to update this sheet. One recent success is that I got a check for $22,000 from a person who removed a 37-inch oak tree. They tried to play it off as if it was an invasive tree. I pushed back and we got our monies. So that was a good win for the end of the year. Pritchard was issued. I'll update that. I believe Everett was issued. I'll update that. We are still dealing with Mount Pleasant. And everything else does seem in order. Any questions? Oh, Mondawmin Court is also an issue that we need to seek mitigation for. So we have 2 that are pending, and we are waiting for mitigation for that. And 1 major success. Questions?
I have questions about box elder bugs.
Me too.
All right, so box elder bugs are, take notes. They will not destroy the tree, but they are quite the gross nuisance. With soapy water, you could get rid of them. So we won't be, I thought about this, is would we actually let someone remove their tree if they had a box elder bug infestation? But it does no harm to the trees. It's just really gross and everywhere. It's a nuisance. So they could just deal with the extermination route or go with soapy water every so often and get treatment. I think every person needs to do research as to what kind of treatment is best for them. If they choose to remove a tree and is healthy and they're not eligible, then they'll have to pay mitigation. That's pretty much it. It doesn't destroy trees, so that's what I've learned.
And they're a native to the country. Sorry. They
Yeah,
seem
the
like they're bad if
shoreline.
they get in your house because they're similar to stink bugs, it seems.
Oh, yeah.
I just have never heard of them before, so I'm fascinated.
Yes. So I believe it was 2 properties back to back that was going on with this issue for 127 Heath Street. So yeah, it's a big deal. We'll probably see more of in the summer as things get warmer and wetter. There's just gonna be a bug and disease problem with our trees. So
But these aren't, necessarily bad bugs. They're just bugs that we don't really want in our houses.
yeah, it tends to infest. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's most
Interesting.
disconcerting for homeowners.
Mhm.
I had a different question. I was curious just to know about, with the 11 Prescott Street. Like, how does that work? I don't really understand the process. I know that they removed it and then
Yeah, they
you
removed
knock on
it.
their door. Like, how does this work? How do you
So-
find out about it?
Okay, so person A removes tree illegally. It gets reported. through various means. Usually someone says, hey, someone's removing a tree illegally. We go out there, we confirm, or we call, or we write a letter. There's various ways in which we contact said offender, but usually it's letter that says, we've discovered that you removed such a tree. We give them information on the tree removal permit process, and then we give them 30 days. Otherwise, they incur fines of $300 a day. Usually it's been the case that they would go ahead and submit a permit application, which would pretty much freeze the violation, given they have enough, there's enough correspondence back and forth in terms of completing the permit application process or providing mitigation. And I sent said threatening letter and met with the contractor and received a check. This was the quickest and easiest it's gone in a while, so I'm glad.
This wasn't a resident, it was a contractor.
It was a I would say it is a development.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
I
So
was
they
thinking
weren't
it's-
owner occupants. Usually, if it was an owner occupant, it would just go differently, whereas they would either submit their permit application and they would get a waiver if they were eligible, or they would get fines for virtually no reason because it's really easy for homeowners to remove
Okay,
trees
that's why
properly.
I was like, how did this happen? That, yeah, okay,
Yep.
but it was a developer. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Oh, anytime.
I want to go back to the box elder bugs because I don't understand. This is where I don't like this precedent at all. These are not harmful bugs. This is just people's distaste.
Oh, this
for
wasn't the
any
reason why
animal.
they were able to remove the tree. They were owner occupants. So this is just something, this is just the reason why they wanted to remove the tree,
They
not the
really-
reason why the tree was able to get removed without mitigation.
Yeah.
Understood.
Thank you for that explanation. It's frustrating. So now we're sort of like dealing with this in the SPAP committee, changing people's views on an animal and, sending out animal insects as sort of like ambassadors, like, don't be afraid of wasps. Here's the black digger wasp that you have to fall in love with. And I just put some links
I
in
was
the
just reading
chat.
that same article.
It's like, how do we change people's, like, even if they do get in your house, they're not like, I coexist with house spiders. Like, I understand maybe they get under the shingles, but I think it's just like some people think they're scary and they're not. Like, they're
Wait.
cute.
This is a great outreach table idea. Like, we all have
Yeah.
all this information on bad bugs. We need a little flyer about like cohabitating with bugs, because we have like the ash borer and the lanternfly, and we have like stickers, and like those bugs are out there and people know about them and they hate them and want to kill them, which is great. It's what we should be doing. But like, we should also have stickers for like cute bugs that we need. I didn't read how much these are good at pollinating or doing totally beneficial things, but like cohabitating with insects should be something we can do too.
Yeah.
Shelve that conversation, knowing we also have a lot of things to talk
Yes.
about tonight too.
Thank you for recognizing time, and thank you for offering that, because they are cute.
Societal change.
Cute.
One step at a
Okay.
time.
Also, Malik, Homer Square, is that, how did that turn out? Or is that what you're calling, Homer Square is off?
Homer Square is decided to replant. So
Oh, that's
they're
right.
going, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Malik, as always, any other updates there?
No other updates.
You are terrific. We are so blessed to have you. Thanks for getting some monies. And
Anytime.
thanks
So on the
for
hunt for more monies.
yeah. Thanks for doing what you do. Okay, Vanessa, is that you? Oh, no. Oh, private tree removals and exceptions, open space and recreation plan.
Yeah, that is me.
Okay.
Just wanted to give a quick update since we spent a lot of last meeting talking about it. Just to let you know where the process is. So, Allison gathered feedback from us, from other committees, from the community meetings, and about 700 survey responses. So a ton of survey responses. She's gathered all that feedback and is coalescing it. And also working on other sections that I don't think all of the sections necessarily needed feedback, but anyway, she's in the writing phase of the open space and recreation plan now. Her goal is to have a full draft ready by March 1st. She has a lot to do, so keep your fingers crossed for her. And she is planning to have the Urban Forestry Committee and other committees review the action plan that comes out of this. So there'll be one more touch point. I don't know if this will be, I'm not sure what her timeline for responding to that will be. So I'm not sure if we'd have to address that individually, just as people, or if we'll have time to be able to do that review as a committee at our next meeting. But there will be that touch point, and she'll also be releasing her full draft for public comment. So there will also be that option to comment on that if people want to. So that's where that is. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, Allison. Okay, spring tree planting.
Yeah, this is just another quick update. The bid for the calendar year 24 tree planting was released yesterday, so I will get bids back in a few weeks and we'll find out who our vendor is. And then I can get started on spring tree planting planning. So progress is being made. We've talked about species before, so I think I have a pretty good sense of what you do and do not like, but as usual, when it gets to that point, I will send out what is available and what I prefer to choose from what's available and solicit feedback. Questions about that?
Is it at all possible for us to order trees we might want that, like, say our contractor isn't able to find a specific tree, but we found it at a different nursery? Is there any wriggle room for coordination, or like letting, like, oh, we found it here, would you be
Yeah.
able to get it?
We can definitely do that, and usually that is helpful. I can't force them to buy it from there because the pricing may be different from what they expected and put the bid in at. But but I can say it's found here. Can you go get it? And they can say no, but I can definitely ask. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And just who were the applicants? Northeastern, or?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, we
This
haven't
is
gotten
open
them.
bid, yeah, for
Okay.
anyone in the world can bid on it, but they have to have certain qualifications, so not really anyone, but in the past, we've had anywhere from 2 to 4 bidders on any one contract. So we'll see who bids this time. Don't know.
Hey, Somerville Pollinator Action Plan Advisory Committee updates.
Yeah. I can give this, or you can give it, Tori. What she want
Yeah, I'll
to
give it, and then want to just color it up.
Sure.
Okay, so offshoots, and the Somerville Pollinator Action Committee met on Monday. And they have done a real deep dive of examining all the data that's available for identifying pollinators and where they are in the city. And Nick Dorian spent a lot of time verifying all these pollinators that were collected from EWA, Earthwise Aware, and iNaturalist. And there was one other data collection that he looked at, and came up with an interesting plan to bring back our pollinators by dividing them into 6 categories. And that was your wasps, your bees, your butterflies and moths, your hummingbirds, and there were 2 other categories, and I can't remember them now.
Are beetles one of them?
Yes, beetles are
Beetles.
one of them. And there's one more, I'm pretty sure.
Flies, did you do flies? I think
Flies.
was one.
Get the flies. And the proposal was sort of like to have what they were calling like flagship species, ones that are present in Somerville and are easily recognizable, and that people could like start looking for. I'm a little worried that, in addition to these flagship species, there were companion species. So like, you know, if you were so the monarch was the flagship species for butterflies, and then there were like, who are the friends of the monarch? And if you plant for a monarch garden, you're also going to attract these critters. And one concern is I don't want the other companion critters to get lost in having a flagship species, but I think that's going to be more conversation, because and I'm thinking maybe the word is just ambassador, right? Like,
That's a good word.
I think that maybe is it. I mean, it's an interesting level of trying to just get people engaged, and you know, maybe it's the ambassadors, and then like the diplomats, and then like who we're trying to get back. Like, oh, we're on the hunt for, like, I'm on the hunt for a pipevine swallowtail. I will continue to plant Dutchman's pipe to try to get that creature back. So yeah, it was very interesting. Again, a lot of the data is wards 1 and 2, you know, not really having much observation. So how do we get people out there taking pictures and quantifying the data? And like wards 3 was very well documented, and well, is ward 6. And that was a lot of efforts of Claire O'Neill, who has different, like the growing center is a location that EWA has in there as part of their sites, and like Spring Street. So yeah, just very, very, very interesting. And I'm looking forward to our next meeting, and we've lined up what are called expert interviews, and there'll be 10 different speakers who are speaking on pollinators. So yeah, Vanessa, that's my overview. What do you got?
Yeah, it was a good overview. There was a lot of data presented. It was really great. Seems like a good way to go, where they're trying to figure out a way to allow people to sort of more simply help the pollinators, like focusing on one species, but then the focus on that species actually benefits a whole host of other pollinators, but you sort of focus on looking for that one species that's easier to see. So you like can feel good if you see it, instead of something that might be more rare and you're like, I've been doing all this pollinator planting, but I never see my pollinator buddy. So I think it's a good, like a really good starting place for bringing it to the community. Yeah, and we're gonna have a lot more meetings with offshoots throughout the next few months. So I think that'll be a lot of the focus of what we bring to you guys.
Yeah, and please go on the Summer Voice page to attend the meetings, especially the experts This should be real interesting. If I remember, I will try to let everyone know when they happen, but Summer Voice has all the information, and Allison's doing a really terrific job at taking lead on this. It's pretty exciting. Okay. Urban forestry related job postings and RFPs. Leah, did you have a chance to look at that? We can look at it together.
I looked, I didn't see anything of note for this week, this month.
Will state in the RFPs section, it's not out yet, but I have 2 other RFPs going out next week, so might as well bring them up. Our tree inventory update project will be going out next week. And also linking our 311 to the tree keeper software program for the tree inventory, so that we can use one program to communicate to people instead of 2. So those projects are going out next week, and this week our Parks Tree Health bid went out yesterday. Also, we have been very busy, and the Young Tree Training Program for the year is also it's a quote process, so it's not on the procurement website, but all these projects are out in the world.
Vanessa, what's the Young Tree Training?
Oh, that is, it's a program we started in 2020, and it focuses on pruning the youngest trees that are planted. So about 25,000, that's not right, 2,500 trees, young trees in the city. They're trees that can be pruned from the ground, and when they're young, you can really work on the structure of the tree to improve its health and like long-term longevity, because if it has a proper structure, then it's less likely to fall apart randomly or be ripped apart by wind and such in the future. So it's a cool program that we started, and are going to keep going forever, hopefully.
Okay. 5:50. The UFC structure, co-chair, and bylaws. Dorothy provided some really hard-hitting and thought-provoking questions in early January, and we did not get to them. We have, gosh, maybe we can just kind of give 10 minutes to this item and circle back if we have time. I just don't want to, I want to maybe, let's see, I'm trying to copy and paste those questions. Let's see. Because you worked so hard on them, and I'm trying to cut and paste them.
It wasn't very much work.
Yeah. Well, it came up with 20 questions.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could do like a Google Doc for those of us who've been on the committee for more than a year as a subcommittee, and then sort of like work through thinking on it, and then come back and sort of start a new member document, because I think that is something we're going to need once we get our new members as well. So sort of working through it. I don't know. I don't have it's been on my list too.
Yeah. Great questions. I'll just give a quick, what is the purpose of the committee? What is the short history of the committee? Is there a list of former committee members? Example of works that the committee does? What are, how to find out about the committee meetings, the municipal regulations and rules, resources related to the committees, how long is a term? How are officers chosen? How are new members recruited and selected? Who are the members of the committee? Obligations of an uncompensated city employee. how often do we meet anyway? Like, is there a set agenda? Who makes the agenda? Great question.
Really good
So,
questions.
yeah.
Mhm.
How can residents get involved? Why is pollinator habitat a very important topic? What are the staff roles? Oh, anyway. Yes, I support Leah, your proposal. Happy
So is
to,
it good steps like I can make a Google Doc that's shared with less than 6 people, right?
yeah.
And I can share it with Tori, Chris, I'm voluntolding y'all, and Vanessa and myself. And I think Dorothy, if you're willing to be a sort of overseer as the generator of questions and sort of like having a sense of when they feel good. Is that a number? 5 people? Good. 5 is one hand. One hand is safe. All right, I will start that Google Doc and we will have an update at our next meeting. Does that feel like a good next step? And if we need, I think it can probably be mostly sidebar in a email chain, if that seems good.
Does that feel good, Dorothy? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. All right, let's do that. Thank you. Thanks for, seems like a lot of work. You gave us some thought. Okay, Spring Street Island Pocket Park support letter, and that is Chris Dwan who put that together, and Vanessa sent it out.
Cool. So I will just share this real quick. I think that this ought to be simple. It is not the 13th anymore, it's the 15th. But this was a presentation that we got back in December. I thought that we all thought that the neighbors were doing a great job self-organizing and advocating for removing a bit of parking, possibly a lane of traffic, being really thoughtful about engaging with city staff and committees like us. We have no power to do anything other than to recommend. And so what I put together was just, we got a presentation, making it into a mini park. They've suggested several possible approaches, do good things. And we enthusiastically support the proposal and applaud them for their initiative. And also it's complicated and there are various city departments. I started trying to list them out and I wasn't even confident that I would be able to list them all, like mobility and DPW and various public safety organizations. So I didn't even list. So just sort of generically into the void, we love it and we support it if anybody cares. That's all that I tried to say here. Any questions or discussion?
I thought your language was great. I think it captures the vibe and says there's also more complicated stuff we don't know, so don't yell at us if we
Ditto.
are
Like-
saying things we shouldn't.
Yeah, like the need to get fire trucks through is real. And I don't know how to even begin touching that. Also, we love this idea.
Mhm.
All right, so I would suggest a quick roll call vote to approve it and get it out the door.
I second that. If that has to be seconded.
In case anybody's wondering, I vote yes.
Aye.
I
Tori,
also
can
vote
you
yes.
call everyone's
Oh,
name?
roll call. And has everyone was able to get a chance to look at it? That was a very great summation. And so yes, roll call. Breck,
Aye.
Chris,
Yes.
Dorothy,
Yes.
Leah,
Yes.
Vanessa,
Yes.
Tori, aye. Approved.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. I know that the organizers will appreciate it.
Yep. Can we get this on the website? Is that
Oh, yeah.
I just
Yep.
added to one of our memos?
Yep.
Okay. Adopt a tree.
Oh yeah. Oof. I'm in the doghouse for so many things right now. I tried to initiate a meeting so that we could start planning for Adopt a Tree this year, and then it got buried in a lot of emails. So I wanted to make sure I'm initiating the right process, because although I've participated, Amy and Jennifer were like the head Adopt a Tree people. So I was going to ask Vanessa, should we sort of keep rolling the same process we did in previous years of, you know, working with the city to create the map and then sort of picking our trees and sort of same process? Or I know we discussed like tagging trees as they were planted, which would sort of shift our whole Adopt a Tree approach. So I don't know if now is the time to have that, or we should have a little give the history of Adopt a Tree to the folks who are interested in joining. Or if we should, yeah, find a time to touch base.
I can quickly say, yeah, I've been putting tags on trees and I check them after they're planted. Like even in the fall so that people see if they're there. I don't know how well they'll hold up, but we should probably do a different process, I would say.
Okay.
So probably needs a
Need a meeting?
meeting.
All right, I will reinitiate that when to meet to find a time that, although Doris is here now too. Hi, Doris.
Hi, and I just realized as you said that I did not respond to your when to me. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Yeah,
But I
is there
will
time?
respond this time if you send it out, I promise.
I can send another one. Is there, I know Videssa can't do weekends. Is there a general like lunch on Friday, or I'm
Yeah,
the most all over the place, so I'm having a hard time nailing down moments that I'm free.
yeah,
But
I would say lunch most days of the week I'm
okay,
available.
Dorothy, does that generally work with you? Not as good for lunch. Sweet.
Also mornings
We
or
can do,
evenings. I can be
okay,
flexible.
yeah. Dorothy, do you have a morning or evening or weekend preference?
Mornings, not Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, and I also have conflicts some Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, so I think it just depends. Same for
Totally depends.
evening, same for the weekend, so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll send
sorry.
another meeting poll and we'll find a time to touch base. Thanks, everybody.
Leah, I don't know if you have included Jennifer and Amy and perhaps Crystal on the when to meet. I imagine I don't know how much time they have, but I think that might be, since they
Yeah.
participated before.
That's a great point. I will do that. And I will need to take a quick note so that this doesn't immediately leave my brain. But I know outreach is next. And I don't think there's any outreach is sort of the next meeting that I wanted to set up with the folks who have helped on outreach. But I think unless someone else wants to instigate those, I think that might be like a next month thing once we sort of do kickstart the Adopt a Tree and then start thinking about outreach. I think the only outstanding thing is if we want to try and get on a winter farmers market tabling. If it's not too late, might be too late. But I have no idea.
I feel like it's too late, but oh, trying to, do you guys remember who the point of contact is for the winter farmers market?
I'd have to go back in my email.
Yeah. I mean, I'll send an email out and see if there's availability. You know, maybe there's a community group that would want to share a table. But you know, it's definitely populated by community groups. Okay, I can do that.
Thank you,
I'll
Tori.
CC you, Leah. I was just gonna write to the general Arts for the Armory community survey. Leah, if you happen to come across the person's email,
Let me just do a quick search on the side here.
okay.
I've just put
Community
an
booth.
address in in the chat. It's the Somerville Winter Farmers Market at artsatthearmory.org.
Somerville Winter Farmers Market at Arts. Okay. Okay. That works. Let me make a note to myself. Okay. Okay, the SAP committee, another, I have not convened a meeting of that. I'm wondering what our next meeting might,
Yeah, I was trying to think what's on our horizon.
yeah.
We had sort of our big symposium day like a year or so ago.
Yeah,
So we can rekindle that. But yeah, it feels like there's a lot going on right now.
yep. I'm wondering if after the next SPAP meeting, where we might have some more information from the consultants, if we will have a SAP meeting, just because that might, you know, as we sort of like have a direction, it can be like, okay, all our little pollinator ambassadors, what plants do they need? How can we complement the work that's being done? So that would be like an April meeting, you know, or it's actually our next meeting.
End of March.
Yeah, I think March 18th. No, March 11th is our next. We might be able to let's think about. So after the next SPAP meeting, perhaps we can have a SAP meeting. That's my proposal for that.
That sounds good.
Yes, and who else would like to be part of this species selection and planting protocol? Anyone else like to be invited to that?
I think it's you and I for now, but
Yep,
maybe once we have some new folks on board.
Yep, yep. And I bet Amy, let's include Amy Myrtle too, and I think Renee Scott would be interested too. Renee, who is head of the NOFA Massachusetts Pollinator Action Network. Go, Renee.
Is it I'm wondering if it's an opportunity to ask people that sign up on the outreach event if anybody's interested, because they always are looking for ways to participate and they don't necessarily want to come to this meeting, but maybe something specific like that. They have the right background would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you, Dorothy, for bringing that fresh perspective. And like, oh yeah, we have people who want to engage. Okay, good, good. Okay, tree preservation ordinance. Okay, who wants to take that? Chris has a proposal. Well, okay. Chris, do you want to just, well, how should we do this? I was going to say, if you want to make a motion for what we went over. Okay, someone help me. What's best to do this? For Breck to go over?
I have a suggestion.
I need a suggestion.
Yeah, so I would like to take one more run at getting this all done kind of in a coherent way. I've done my very best and I'm putting a PDF in the chat and I'll share it. I think that I have created something that captures this emerging consensus, and I love the way that groups like this come to own ideas through our conversation. Like there's not just Chris's part and Vanessa's part and then Tori's part. Like I would love it. I think we stand a decent shot that this is our suggestion. And I would share, Vanessa shared with me that the mayor has offered some policy guidance to committees like ours, including ours, that we should not directly make recommendations on ordinance language to the city council. That rather, that's a serious and complex enough thing that we should bounce it through the legal department for review. And that there should be more of a process than just us as a committee going directly to the council. I see the logic in that. I worry about some possible eventualities of doing things that way, where we wind up much more like a administrative unit than a committee that's created to advise both council and mayor. But I'm willing to go in good faith and say, we're just talking about a memo that we're writing. And then the path for the memo, since it suggests revisions to an ordinance, goes through the legal department. And if they love it, it would just go forward. If legal has suggestions for changes, I suspect it would come back to us to decide whether or not to update our memo. Vanessa, sorry, was that a?
That was, yeah, a good summary, except the guidance I was given wasn't even about directly writing the text, but just any suggested ordinance changes. So I feel like we should still, instead of submitting this directly to the council, just submit it to the mayor, which is still good. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, and from my perspective, one thing that happens once we pass it is it's a memo that we passed. It's a public document. I mean, it's not like a big secret, and there's no strategy to this. It's just that when Vanessa forwards it, rather than going directly to the city clerk to put it on the city council's agenda, she'll send it to the law department. And if legal says, hey, can we come talk to you in a month? We say yes. You know, and then we pass a revised version of it maybe, or we recognize the wisdom of what they're saying. For me, that depressurizes somewhat the need to get everything absolutely perfect on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Since we are going to have another set of expert eyes on it. Other change, you may note there are now 9 things. Because
hold on. Sorry, Chris.
Yes.
Can I speak to the sort of the process? So, okay. For example, we wrote a memo regarding the vegetative roof ordinance, the change in the green score, and that was not supported by the mayor. So, and I'm just using this as an example, and I don't know, Vanessa, if the sort of suggestion is for language change to an ordinance versus weighing in on a new ordinance. I mean, that was a change to the green score. So I guess I again, legal was very much against the vegetative roof ordinance, of course, fearing lawsuits. But it still passed. So I wouldn't want that to interfere with like us making a recommendation.
I feel like writing a memo supporting a policy, whether or not that's the mayor's policy, is one thing, but making a recommendation to change an ordinance is another. I don't remember UFC supporting the vegetation change. Did I miss a meeting or something? I've only missed one meeting.
Maybe that was it. I believe Chris wrote a memo.
Yeah, I think it was a simple one. I think I have too many files at this point in my Somerville folder, but just going back. Yeah, we wrote a memo. It was in November of 2023, and we said the committee doesn't feel qualified to speak to a bunch of stuff. I'm getting very, very comfortable with saying that in my memos. We, just as the tree committee, we support expanding green roof coverage.
Okay, that's okay. I was there. I just want to say this is different because we were supporting an ordinance proposal that someone else brought, not that we are suggesting changes. It seems like a different situation to me. We're supporting something the council has created on their own, or I don't know where this came from, but it's instead of coming directly from us initially.
Yeah, and I do also just want to acknowledge that Vanessa is in a challenging position here, being both a member of the committee and also a fairly senior member of the staff. So it's not, if we have any significant disagreement with this policy, it's not up to Vanessa, and she shouldn't have to defend it or anything. This is, and like I say, I'm comfortable. I can see the possibility of kind of a squelching effect. I also could see the possibility of this being a helping hand so that we don't just like step on our toes in a recommendation that's legally incoherent. And you know, and as a backup to the concern, like the memo exists as a public document once we pass it. It's just a question of routing. And I know that if we wanted then to reach out as individuals to say, hey, city councilor, did you know that the committee passed something? They could ask, hey, what's up with that? You know.
Vanessa, thank you for that distinction, right?
Yeah.
Us initiating an ordinance versus something that we're weighing in on that was originated from someplace else. So that I get that. I understand that.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is I was going to say Vanessa and Breck have also been busy and have found language that does some really good stuff in addition to what we talked about before, where there's changing the ordinance on injuring shade trees such that every significant injury is a separate infraction, so that the somewhat ludicrously low $500 fine could apply multiple times per tree. Then specific standards around tree protection, which I don't claim to appreciate technically, but they looked good. I like the idea of this permit process where residents can ask for permission to prune city-owned trees. I think that's great. I will certainly apply myself, perhaps retroactively, and not to narc myself out, but and then some lessons learned, writing down, I think, the details of how issuing fines actually ought to work. Because I understand from last meeting, we actually issued our first fine and there was something of a road there. And so there's clarity on how that works. And then the very last one, that was the one we struggled with before, and I put the PDF in the chat if anybody wants to look in detail. But this was, I thought, kind of elegant on Vanessa's part. That I think the thing, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that we all broadly agree that a Norway maple does not cease to be an invasive species when it reaches a certain size, which is what our current ordinance says. And so what I said here was, we should certainly just strike that. We should certainly, it remains invasive, it absolutely does. And then I have not heard consensus in this group on whether or not we want to necessarily create those protections, like retain the protections that were in there. But if we do, we would say it's in the definition of a significant tree. And then in my language, like I say we should certainly remove the language that it somehow ceases to be invasive. It doesn't. And then if the council wants to continue to protect them, then do it in the definition of significant tree. And basically admit we weren't able to come to a really coherent recommendation one way or the other. Like they provide some benefits, they cause some harm. It didn't converge. My suggestion, I kind of like this. I would kind of like to get it out the door, especially since we'll get a layer of review and another set of eyes on it. Admittedly, we waffle a little bit. We couldn't figure out everything, but okay, pausing there. What do people think? How would you like to proceed?
So just to clarify, so if we approve this, and I don't know if it has to be unanimous or not, but if it was approved in whatever form it was taken, it would be sent to the legal department, who would then do what with it? Draft potential changes that go to the city council or the mayor, or come back to us, or do we know?
I can speak to that.
Yeah, okay.
So what I've been told is I would send this to the mayor and the law office, and the mayor's office, I guess, her staff as well. And they would determine what to do next. So we could probably, they imagine they'd refer it to the law department. At some point, the law department would need to get involved for drafting any ordinance language. The mayor's office may want more clarity before we go that far, but I feel like based on what Chris has put together, I'm not sure that, not sure how much that would, I think we'd go straight to law, but I don't know. This is a new process for me too. And then the law department work on drafting it. I imagine since this is coming from committee, the draft that the law department would put together or modify from our draft, I can bring that back to committee to make sure everything makes sense and jives with what we were thinking. I don't know if they would come to our meeting or not. I have no idea. I can invite them. I don't know if they would come.
Would they
So-
likely ask you, like, if they read it, obviously they're gonna read it for the first time. They
Yeah,
nothing about trees. I'm assuming they would go to you with questions of
oh
like,
yeah,
it's
yes,
really mean and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
yes.
And then
From working with the law department, they are just trying to put in legal terms what someone else wants. Like they don't care what this says. They just want to make sure it's legal and that it's specified properly.
And I would add on to that, there's kind of two major paths that laws get passed in the city. The usual, sometimes the city council will pass a board order requesting that the law department draft language doing X, Y, and Z. We need language to make it legal for more than 3 unrelated people to live in the same unit in the city, for example. And then the law office goes off and drafts something that does that, and then comes back, and then the legislature decides whether or not we want to pass that. But the law office has drafted something that's supportable and legal. And if they think it's just a terrible idea that's going to result in a flood of lawsuits, then they usually show up and say that as well. They're like, here's the language that does what you want. Man, we wouldn't do that. Another path is that and this happens all the time, the mayor will ask the law department to update an ordinance, and then it comes in as a mayor's communication. And then sometimes the council is like, wow, why would we do that? And it goes back and forth, and eventually the legislature decides to pass it or not. I think that in this case, we're treating ourselves like we're short-circuiting a bit of that. Like, as I think about it, we're short-circuiting that path where if I was the city council and I got a letter from us 11 minus 4 people, I would ask the law department to review it. Right. And I think we're kind of short-circuiting that. And as Vanessa said, they probably will not have great opinions on whether or not a Norway maple is an invasive species. I don't think they care, but they will almost certainly have opinions on how best to write it. So I'm comfortable taking that. I always worry about more layers of administration between sort of a clear idea and the people who it's aimed at. But in this case, I think it's a reasonable thing. And then I would say that if it takes way too long or seems to be just in a drawer someplace, I would then reach out to maybe my ward counselor and say, hey, check out this memo. Maybe you could pick that up.
I would make a motion that we approve this. Unless there's discussion, or maybe we could discuss it after. It's been made a motion to approve.
And
Not clear if we follow Robert's rules of order or not.
I do have some points of discussion. I don't know how to pause the motion or whatever. Tori, you're muted.
Yeah, Dorothy makes the motion, right? And now it's for discussion.
Somebody has to second
Oh.
it, and then we discuss it.
I don't think I can second as a chair. I could be wrong though.
You can
You
second.
can't first, you can second.
You can second.
Okay. Yeah, seconded.
I need to read my rules.
Vanessa, yeah, me too.
Seriously, me too.
Vanessa, you had a thought?
Thanks. Just in the beginning, when you're describing the different texts, Chris, number 7 says create a permit process. We actually do have a permit process. It's just not ordained. So I don't know if we can, like, way up at the top in the summary section. Like, I
Number
just maybe like creates the wrong word, maybe like,
Amend or
well, nobody, probably not enough people know about it, so amend might not be strong enough, but like,
Promote or refine.
sure, refine, yeah. I like refine, I'd go with that.
I can capture that.
I think I would, the word refine speaks to something already exists and you're making it better. So if
But
it's,
it does exist,
We're gonna-
and this is better.
okay, I thought you meant specifically to the, I'm sorry, I was looking at the actual like create a duty of care, but you mean the whole
Oh.
sentence.
Yeah, just the permit process, sorry, number 7, create a permit process under which residents can apply for permission to prune
Got it,
city-owned
okay.
trees. We have a policy and we have a document, but the way that Breck wrote this, it makes it even better. So, and it's not, yeah, so I feel like refine fits
Yeah.
well.
So I can switch over to my Word doc, which is identical to that PowerPoint doc. And I have changed that one word to say refine rather than create.
Okay,
And then
thank you.
up top, it's just the table of contents, so that should automatically
Oh,
update.
neat. Okay, got it. And then for number 8, at least in the title, it says specify penalties and clarify how violations shall be enforced. If this refers to the section that Breck put together, that's actually an additional penalty structure, kind of replicating the structure of private tree damage,
Mhm.
replicating that for public trees. Right now, we don't have a way. Oh, I'm just reading now the text. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought that would since I'm just seeing this document, I thought that would be referring to the fines that we can, if this gets, it's hard to explain this. The fines, the $300 per day fines, basically, if someone damages a street tree and doesn't
Mhm.
pay. I thought that's what that was about. So
Yeah, so
maybe I'm wrong.
we've got this bit up top, which is that every injury to a public shade tree is a separate infraction. And I love that. And then we also apply that to trees on private property during construction, I believe. Or no, this is,
That was not really my intention.
Okay.
It's, the intention was more for construction taking place around public shade trees specifically. But the fines laid out in what we're looking at right now are basically what we already have through MGL. So I can issue the $500 fine through MGL. But if somebody doesn't pay that, I basically don't have any recourse. And so the major change is to allow us to issue a fine for failure to pay a fine, basically. So like Malik can issue a daily $300 fine for TPO violations on private property, I would also be able to issue $300 a day if somebody doesn't pay the fine for the MGL violation.
what if we just say that it clarifies how violations shall be enforced, and if people want to know the details, they can read the language?
We say violations for public shade trees.
And it is, I mean, I don't know if it's important to know, but it's creating a new fine structure. It's not just clarifying how the fines are enforced.
This is what you get when I edit something in half an hour before a meeting.
You add in a how there, you should be proper sentence.
Right. Any others?
Chris, I had questions to so private property owners, 90% reduction in fees. Would that also mean 90% reduction in replacement value of the trees?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, for replanting a paint, okay,
Yeah.
Yep. okay,
You have 90%, a reduction of 90% to the requirements if you're an owner occupant. And I think that taking that, the step from 0 to not 0 is the big one for me.
And I just want to understand better the Norway maple or Norway maple conundrum. So, okay, if we want to, would adding the Norway maple, so, okay, significant tree, any living tree, not an invasive plant, 8 inches or more DBH. Any living tree that is an invasive plant that is over 24 inches. I guess I just want to add Norway maples here.
Right. And so what I was trying to do with this is sidestep the fact that we do not have consensus on the committee. We do not agree.
Yeah.
And so what I said was, you should certainly remove the bit that makes them not invasive. That's silly.
Yeah.
And if the council wants to continue to protect these large invasive trees, we suggest adding language like we have below. Like we don't have consensus on whether or not we should include Norway maple in that phrase.
Okay.
If you want to do it, here's how to do it.
I would quickly say that I think that everything after the first DBH is what I was adding. So if you're turning things green, that is an addition. It would go all the way to the comma. Yeah, right after that comma. And probably DBH should be defined at the first DBH, but anyways.
I think DBH is defined all on its own higher up in the ordinance.
Oh, well, then it doesn't even need to be in there, probably.
Yeah. I at least want the greens to match. And I won't be able to do that without.
So trees of heaven were exempt from being significant trees originally, right? That's
right.
Corey, this doesn't actually change anything about
Yeah.
how the ordinance works. It just makes more sense. That's all. And allows for an easier change in the future should we decide to push one.
Chris, thank you for all your work. Breck and Vanessa, you too, for the additions, and I as well might have to retroactively apply for permits for pruning. It's just when they're like hit you in the face. But thank you for alerting that.
I think
That's not the main reason the
Yeah.
permits exist. So I think you guys are probably pruning properly. But I didn't say that, right?
All right, strike that from the minutes. So any other questions on the motion, I guess? Yeah, Tori, I think it falls to you to close it out and call the roll.
I would very much like to move this to be accepted by the committee, and we are going to take a roll call vote. Lead us off, Breck.
Sorry, unmuting. Approve.
Dorothy.
Approve.
Leah.
Approve.
Oh, Chris. Sorry.
Yes.
Vanessa.
Approve.
Doris.
Approve.
Tori. Approve. Good job.
Oh my gosh, thank you, everybody. Vanessa, I will send you this lightly edited version. Thank you so much for taking so much time on this deeply nerdy document. I really appreciate it.
Okay, what I would like to do next is approve the meeting minutes, unless anyone objects. Makes sense to me, right? We're at time. I would like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Dorothy seconds. Okay. Roll call for approval of the minutes. Let's do this. Breck.
Approved.
Chris. Doris.
Approved.
Dorothy.
Approve.
Leah.
Approved.
Vanessa.
Approve.
Tori. Approve. Meeting minutes have been approved. The best in town. Vanessa, thank you. Really, Chris, good job.
Okay.
Okay. Do I need to, for adjourning, do we have to take a roll call? And I feel like I ask this every time. Okay. I would like to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right. All in
Good
favor?
work, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Everybody. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.